Hello, Mr. Schubert. I'm Frank. So this is my tax license presentation. I choose the poem Beehive and the short story Millions. So this is a table of contents. We have four different parts: text intro analysis, personal reflection, compare and contrast, and status quo. So let's begin. Millions is a short story by Sundar Larsen, set in an urban area between Strathcona and Chinatown, a place of change and displacement. The story focuses on the narrator, a youth worker, and her relationship with a mysterious boy. Through their interactions, we see the boy as imaginative but isolated and traumatized, while the narrator is an empathetic yet cautious figure. The story begins when the narrator meets the boy at a community center. He carries a backpack full of the World War II books, arousing the narrator's curiosity and concern. The boy asks, "What if you're the agent, a spy?" Reveals both his distrust and the guarded world he lives in. And after, the narrator starts talking with him and walking him home after programs. What's interesting is how the kid's imagination becomes a kind of survival tool. He's obsessed with weapons, not just for fun, but almost like they give him a sense of control in a life where he probably doesn't have much. When they discuss how to use $1 million, the kids answer, mining tanks, guns, even mind control powers. This is his way of imagining himself safe and prepared for anything. As the story ends with their final walk, the narrator still hasn't fully reached the kids' hidden world through their contemporary connection. Larson uses several literary devices to deepen the story. For example, the line, "Sometimes I'm a hero and sometimes I'm the first victim," is a metaphor showing the narrator's inner fear. Comparing her thoughts to a movie reveals how strongly the boy's violent fantasies affect her. And the line, "After the program, I see fresh real estate signs blossoming like the cherry trees." So the author uses vivid imagery here. We can see the contrast between the natural beauty of cherry trees and the growing real estate signs, which highlights the neighborhood's unstable changes. Finally, the line, but just because something could happen doesn't mean it will, shows the narrator trying to reassure the boy while also hinting at her own worries. This foreshadowing emphasizes the tension between imagination and reality. Oral. Lars's language is simple and conversational. She uses everyday words and realistic dialogue, making the story flow naturally. Now let's look at The Beehive by John Toomer. The poem is written in free verse, so it doesn't follow any regular arrangement, but the rhythm feels smooth and lyrical. The tone is dreamy and full of desire, as the speaker imagines his life beyond the hive. Toomer also uses short, abrupt lines that interrupt the flow, making readers pause and reflect on the speaker's place in this beehive. The main theme is the feeling of repetitive routine and the speaker's desire to escape, highlighting how conformity can crush individuality. The author employs many devices in the text, including metaphor, repetition, and symbolism. The first quote, "Earth is a vaccine cell of the world comb." This metaphor compares the Earth to a honeycomb cell, highlighting how people are part of a bigger connected world. When the speaker calls himself a drunk, it shows he feels like a small piece of the system, and getting drunk without sugar honey suggests he's fully immersed in life's pleasures. The second quote, we don't notice the repetitive format. It's bees plus verb plus something. I think it emphasizes their constant movement and activity. It creates a rhythmic flow that mirrors the buzzing of bees and their continuous cycle. The last quote, "Sewer bees intensely buzzing, sewer honey dripping from the swarm of bees." So sewer bees and sewer honey symbolize something pure and precious, linking the natural world to a spiritual or celestial. The silver color adds a mystical feeling, connecting nature to something bigger and more beautiful than everyday life. So Tumor uses a mix of natural and cosmic words like honey, moon, and buzzing. This connects everyday life to the universe while showing how society can seem beautiful but also trap people on the other side, crushing their individuality. So let's move on to the second part, my personal reaction. Both texts resonate with me in different ways. In Millions, I felt empathy but also concerned for the boy's imagination. His obsession with weapons made me think about how some kids hide their true selves behind unusual behavior. For example, my cousin was very mischievous when he was around 5 or 6 years old. He never listens and obeys what his parents ask him to do, so he often gets into trouble and upset his parents. But my father saw it that completely different. He believed my cousin was smart and creative in the way he approaches some situations. And now, 10 years old, my cousin is excellent in school. He studied in middle school math at grade 5. This taught me how important it is to understand someone before judging them. Beehive grabbed me with the rhythm and repetition. The tone felt both dreamy and a little unsettling. It reminded me of my experience in a Chinese middle school back 2 years ago, where we were pressured to study and perform well on the Chinese version of ministry exam. To be honest, we are just like a study machine, following high expectations and strict rules from parents and teachers. But after moving to Canada, I was encouraged to be more creative and share my own ideas to show my individuality. So I built a jet engine model using things around me, and I won $50 prize at the Montreal Regional Science Fair this year. So this kind of contrast between conformity and individuality stood out to me while reading this poem. Okay, third part, compare and contrast. So I have made a table for you to directly see the difference and similarities between the two texts. Both Millions and Beehive use emotionally descriptive language, but in different ways. Millions is realistic and conversational that feels very relatable, while Beehive uses poetic and symbolic language to create a more abstract mood. Metaphor appears in two texts, but Millions focus on imagery and foreshadowing to share the speaker's feeling, where Beehive uses symbolism and repetition to build a rhythmic and a little bit of hypnotic effect. So the main goal in both texts is a desire to escape their environment. But in Millions, the boy seeks emotional understanding and empathy, using his imagination to escape judgment and pain. Meanwhile, the narrator tries to connect with him but remains cautious. In Beehive, the speaker, which is the bee, wants to break free from repetitive routine, reaching for something bigger than society itself. Okay, so last part, status quo in both texts. So in Millions, story challenges the status quo by advocating for compassion over judgment. The boy doesn't act like the other kids. He's quiet, obsessed with war and violence, and he carries secrets. Instead of labeling him trouble or just ignore him, the narrator listens with empathy and walks him home. Even when he jokes, what if you're the agent, a spy? This challenges the usual system that judges people by first impressions. In Beehive, Toomer also challenges the status quo by resisting conformity. The poem describes a world that buzzes like a machine, where people lose their voice and identity. It feels mechanical and dehumanizing, showing how a large system or the current society can trap individuals. Like what Albert Einstein said, let every man be respected as an individual and no man idolized. That's real challenge, collectively mentioned by two texts, to value each person's uniqueness instead of forcing them into the same mold. Thank you.